transcendental devotees of the Lord. They could not even appreciate the begging of the Supreme Lord, Krishna and Balaram. Although they heard all the arguments on behalf of Krishna and Balaram, they did not care for them, and they refused to speak to the boys. Childish because they do not know the purpose of the Vedas, as it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita. In spite of their advancement in Vedic knowledge and rituals, they do not understand Krishna. Therefore, their knowledge of the Vedas is useless. Lord Chaitanya therefore gave his valuable opinion that although a person may not be born in a Brahmana family, a spiritual master. There are various detailed paraphernalia, mantra, hymns, tantra, scriptural evidences, Agni, fire, Ritvik, the sacrifice itself, and Dharma, the procedures. Enjoyer of all sacrifices because he is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Absolute Truth, beyond the conception or speculation of the material senses. He is present just like planetary residences called Swargavas. They were therefore completely unable to understand the position of Krishna. When the boys saw that the Brahmanas would not reply to them even with a serpent, after hearing their everywhere, he may be there and ask for some food in my name and the name of Balaram, and I'm sure they will deliver you as much food as you desire. Carrying out Krishna's order, the boys immediately went to the wives of the Brahmanas. They found the wives sitting inside the Brahmanas' house. They were very beautifully decorated with ornaments. After offering them all respectful obeisances, the boys said, "Dear mothers, please accept our humble obeisances and hear our statement. They have come here with the cows, and you may know also that we have come here under their instructions. All of us are very hungry, Balaram and ourselves." Immediately upon hearing this, the wives of the Brahmanas became anxious for Krishna and Balaram. These reactions were spontaneous. They did not have to be convinced of the importance of Krishna and Balaram. Immediately upon hearing their names, they became very eager to see them. Being advanced by thinking of Krishna constantly, they were performing the great with nice food. Due to the performance of the sacrifice, the various foods were all very palatable. After collecting a feast, they prepared to go to Krishna, their most beloved object, exactly in the way rivers flow to the sea. For a long time, the wives had been eager to see Krishna. However, when they were preparing to leave home to go see him, their husbands, fathers, sons, and relatives asked them not to go. But the wives did not comply. When a devotee is called by the attraction of Krishna, he does not care for bodily ties. The women entered the forest of Vrindavan on the bank of the Jamuna, which was verdant with vegetation and newly grown vines and flowers. Within that forest, they saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in tending the cows along with their very affectionate boyfriends. The Brahmana's wives saw Krishna with a blackish complexion, wearing a garment that glittered like gold. He wore a nice garland of forest flowers and a peacock feather on his head. He was also painted with the minerals found in Vrindavan, and he looked exactly like a dancing actor on a theatrical stage. They saw him resting one hand on the shoulder of his friend, and in the other hand he was holding a lotus flower. His ears were decorated with lilies, he wore marks of tilak, and he was smiling charmingly. With their very eyes, the wives of the Brahmanas saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of whom they had heard so much, who was so dear to them, and in whom their minds were always absorbed. Now they saw him eye to eye and face to face, and Krishna entered within their hearts through their eyes. Within themselves, they began to embrace Krishna to their heart's content, and the distress of separation was mitigated immediately. They were just like great sages who, by their advancement of knowledge, merge into the existence of the Supreme. As the Supersoul living in everyone's heart, Lord Krishna could understand their minds. They had come to him despite all the protests of their relatives, fathers, husbands, and brothers, and despite all the duties of household affairs. They came just to see him, who is their life and soul. They were exactly following Krishna's instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. One should surrender to him, giving up all varieties of occupational and religious duties. It should be noted in this connection that when Krishna entered into the wives' hearts and when they embraced him and felt the transcendental bliss of being merged with him, the Supreme Lord Krishna did not lose his identity, nor did the individual wives lose theirs. The individuality of both the Lord and the wives remained, yet they felt oneness in existence. When a lover submits to his lover without any pinch of personal consideration, that is called oneness. Lord Chaitanya has taught us this feeling of oneness in his Shikshashtaka. Krishna may act freely, doing whatever he likes, but the devotee should always be in oneness or in agreement with his desires. That oneness was exhibited by our welcome here. Please let me know what I can do for you. You're coming here to see me, neglecting all the restrictions and hindrances. Ultimately, when a person comes to house, country, society, and only bodily and spiritual. Lord, this sort of instruction does not befit you. Your eternal promise is that you will always protect your devotees, and now you must fulfill this promise. Anyone who comes and surrenders material existence, we expect that you will now fulfill your promise. We have surrendered unto your lotus feet, which are covered by tulsi leaves, so that we have no desire to give up the shelter. And what shall we do if we return home? Our husbands, brothers, fathers, sons, mothers, and friends will no longer accept us at home, because we have already left them all. Therefore, for our stay under your lotus feet, so that we can eternally live under your protection. The Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, My dear wives of the Brahmanas, rest assured that your husbands will not neglect you on your return. Others refuse to accept you. Because you are my pure devotees, not only your relatives, but also Krishna's principle, religious rituals must be executed by the husband and wife together. When the Brahmana's wives returned, the sacrifice was duly and nicely executed. One of the Brahmana's wives, however, who had been forcibly checked from going to see Krishna, began to remember him as she heard of his bodily features. Being completely absorbed in his thought, she gave up her material body, conditioned by the laws of nature. After the departure of the Brahmana's wives, Sri Govinda and his cowherd boyfriends enjoyed the food they had offered. In this way, the ever-joyful personality of Godhead exhibited his transcendental pastimes in the guise of an ordinary human being in order to attract the common people to Krishna consciousness. With his words and beauty, he attracted all the cows, cowherd boys, and damsels in Vrindavan. All of them together enjoyed the pastimes of the Lord. After the return of their wives from Krishna, the Brahmanas engaged in the performance of sacrifices began to regret their sinful activities in refusing food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They could finally understand their mistake. Engaged in the performance of Vedic rituals, they had neglected just like an ordinary human being and added to the platform of pure devotional service. They themselves could not understand even a little bit of how to love and offer transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord. They began to talk among themselves. To hell with our being born Brahmanas. To hell with our learning all the Vedic literatures. To hell with our performing great sacrifice and observing all the rules and regulations. To hell with our family. To hell with our expert service in performing the rituals exactly according to the description of this. Hare Krishna. Thanks, Gopal. What a nice surprise. To hell with our family, to hell with our expert service in performing the rituals exactly according to the description of the scriptures. To hell with it all, for we have not developed transcendental loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the speculation of the mind, body, and senses. The learned Brahmanas, expert in Vedic ritualistic performances, were properly regretful, because if one does not develop Krishna consciousness, all discharge of religious duties is simply a waste of time and energy. They continued to talk among themselves to overcome, that it can create illusion to overcome even the greatest mystic yogi, the external energy. Just see how fortunate these women are. They have so devotedly dedicated their lives to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna that they could easily do what is ordinarily so difficult. They gave up their family connections, which are just like a dark well, for the continuation of material miseries. Women in general, being very simple at heart, can very easily take to Krishna consciousness. And when they develop love of Krishna, they can easily get liberation from the clutches of Maya, which are very difficult for even so-called intelligent and learned men to surpass. The Brahmanas continued, according to Vedic injunction, women are not allowed to undergo the purificatory process of initiation by the sacred thread, nor are they allowed to live as brahmacharinis in the ashrama of the spiritual master, nor are they advised to undergo the strict disciplinary procedures, nor are they very expert in discussing the philosophy of self-realization. And by nature, they are not very pure, nor are they very much attached to auspicious activities. Therefore, how wonderful it is that these women have developed transcendental love for Krishna, the Lord of all mystic yogis. They have surpassed all of us in firm faith and devotion unto Krishna. Although we are considered to be the masters in all purificatory processes, we do not actually know what their goal is, because we are too much attached to the materialistic way of life. Even though we were reminded of Krishna and Balaram by the cowherd boys, we disregarded them. We now think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply played a trick of mercy on us by sending his friends to beg food from us. Otherwise, he had no need to send them. He could have satisfied their hunger then and there just by willing to do so. If someone denies Krishna's self-sufficiency on hearing that he was tending the cows for his livelihood, or if someone doubts his not being in need of the food, thinking that he was actually hungry, then such a person should understand that the goddess of fortune is always engaged in his service. In this way, the goddess can break her faulty habit of recklessness. In Vedic literatures like the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Krishna is served in his abode with great respect by not only one goddess of fortune, but by many thousands. Therefore, it is simply illusion for one to think that Krishna begged food from the Brahmanas. It was actually a trick to show them mercy by teaching them that they should accept him in pure devotional service, instead of engaging in ritualistic ceremonies. The Vedic ceremonial paraphernalia, the suitable place, the suitable time, the different grades of articles for performing the ritualistic ceremonies, the Vedic hymns, the process of sacrifice, the priest who is able to perform the sacrifice, the fire, the demigods, the performer of the sacrifice, and the religious principles are all meant for understanding Krishna. For Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the Lord of all mystic yogis. Because he has appeared as a child in the dynasty of the Yadus, we were so foolish that we could not understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas said, but on the other hand, we are very proud because we have such exalted wives who have developed pure transcendental service of the Lord without being shackled by our rigid opposition. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna to excuse us, because we are simply captivated by his external energy. Brahmanas, although they had come to know this because they were too much addicted, to fruitive activities. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta. You will get.
Vaishya Sudra. But the wives were more intelligent.
And then the question is there another circumstance?
I'm going to meet Krishna. They got more purification than anyone because their desire intensified. Kind of like the difference between cooking stovetop rice and using purified from any past sinful activities, and they came to perfection in that intensity. And yes, there's a description of how the wives of the Brahmins, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, had overheard conversations in the marketplace. I'm not sure if it's the Aboriginals, but it's mentioned that the local devotees, just in ordinary dealings and exchanging or barter system they were engaged in at that time, would mention Krishna, and they became attracted, so much so that they were always thinking of him. So they were ready when Krishna came and called for them. Such was the case with Rukmini also. Rukmini had heard about Krishna in her father's court, where his glories were often discussed. And that's when she made the determination that she wouldn't marry Shishupal or anybody else for that matter. She would only marry Krishna, and that's why she sent him a letter. She hadn't met him, but she had heard about him. And in both cases, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions what you just said, that this is the essence of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing about Krishna, then talking about him, and then of course after that comes Smaranam, remember Krishna. And as we heard in this story, their intense remembrance of Krishna is what elevated them after hearing, chanting, and remembering. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita twice, Manmanam Pavamadbhak, so just think of me. What else? Reflections, questions?
Speak to them and give them any response. One, at the end, realize, oh, Krishna's, they realize learning isn't, or hearing, or doesn't seem, maybe I should ask that.
Yes, in fact, just before I came down here for the class, I was listening to a lecture of Prabhupada who was speaking on the nectar of devotion. And he was emphasizing in the verse, Sarvapadi Vanirmuktam Tapratmena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesh Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite, that one must use one's senses in service to Krishna. And he said that this is not some inactive process, but it requires using one's senses in the service of the master of the senses. And that when one realizes that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, that's my constitutional position, there's a natural eagerness to serve Krishna's senses. And it's also mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Shushusho Sharadhanasya Vasudeva Kataraji Syan Mahat Seveya Vipra Punya Tirtana Shevana, that when one renders service to pure devotees, one develops a natural desire to hear about Krishna. That's the result.
As you were making your response, at first he wouldn't speak with him. He said, go wash the pots, and then come.
I got that service when I first joined, and they told me, the more you make the pots shine, the more your heart will shine. It was my favorite service, still is, washing pots. It's something where when you're engaged in washing pots, you can feel yourself engaging all your senses, and it's a menial service. Menial means you do something that's manual labor. And in any kind of engagement where we're engaging our senses, we naturally feel detached and we naturally get knowledge. This is one of the points that Sutta Goswami makes at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Yashuvayaragyam. And I see somebody doing Dandavat Parikram. Especially today, it was a little warm out there, and I saw people of, you know how to do Dandavat Parikram? Would you like to do it? It's not absolutely required. They come out there during the holidays and they do. Anyway, I won't go into that. I'll just say what I was going to say, and that is that I've never seen anybody who's doing Dandavat Parikram who looks annoyed, impatient, angry, exasperated, or even tired. And today I was reminded again, because when we were pulling out in our rickshaw, at that intersection before you get back onto the road, there were some people coming along to do Dandavat Parikram, and they were just about to fall flat. And they stepped back and they said, no, please go ahead. Deep absorption and happiness. And if you go to Orlando, Florida, and you notice people waiting in line to see the mouse, or walking out from seeing them, feel fulfilled. I quoted the verse with eating. When you eat food, you get nourishment, satisfaction, and your hunger goes away. It means you become detached from all other things that aren't connected to Krishna. And it happens as naturally as what the verse says. Bhakti parishano bhava goes away when you eat. So similarly, three things happen when you engage in service, which is that you feel devotion in your heart, you see Krishna directly for yourself, and also you become detached from all other things. Who knew washing pots or offering Dandavat Parikram over and over again, or Dandavats, would make one happy? It's counterintuitive to the untrained mind.
The actual Brahmanas themselves, they've understood his Vishnu, they've understood the sacrifice.
Hear about in the Mahabharata and the Srimad Bhagavatam. When Krishna asked Akrura to go and talk to Dhritarashtra, to find out if he really wants to go through with this. After all, he's a king. He comes from really a high background, and why should he be so attached to his sons, especially Duryodhana? And Dhritarashtra said, your words, it's kind of weakness. His son's killed. He lost everything. He was still living in the house of the Pandavas, the ones who he had tried to usurp the property from, the ones he had tried to kill, the house of lack. He had allowed his sons to run roughshod over Dharma and try to kill the Pandavas just because he was so attached to his own sons getting the kingdom. Dhritarashtra vacha dharma kshetre kurukshetre mamaka pandavaschaiva kima kurvata sanjaya. Mamaka, it's all mama, it's all me, it's my sons, and so forth. Nonetheless, Vidura, who is his great well-wisher, he came and snuck him out of the house because still Pandavas were taking care of him, and he was a treasured member of the family, despite everything else. It's real culture, right? And Vidura went and grabbed him and snuck him out. It's hard getting out of family life. Hard getting out of anything in this world. So you need some intervention. So Vidura intervened, and he took him to the forest, didn't tell anybody where he was going, and he started helping him, coaching him so he could regulate his senses, because he had been living a kingly life. What's more, he had been engaged in this horrible intrigue and had been absorbed in that for years. But because of Vidura's association and because he made a last-ditch effort, Dhritarashtra made some advancement. And made them hesitate. People who are bought and sold in politics, for instance, they may go along with treachery or despotism because they don't want to lose their job. Happens all the time. People just hang on because they think, well, anyway, maybe it'll blow over, nobody will notice, but they just don't want to lose their job. And I mentioned maybe the other night that when the demigods were observing the fight between Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsingadev, did I mention this? Probably it was at Govardhan. And you know, in the fight between Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsingadev, Nrsingadev had captured Hiranyakashipu, had him in his clutches. Now the Devas, whose homes, whose realms, whose jobs, services, everything had been usurped by Hiranyakashipu, were watching the fight. It says from behind the clouds. Because they wanted everything back. They wanted all their stuff back. They wanted status quo back. So they're watching. And what did Lord Nrsingadev do during the fight? He caught Hiranyakashipu, and what happened after that? It appeared as if Hiranyakashipu slipped away. What did the demigods think then? Now we're really finished. Because we were rooting for the enemy. Think of that. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, And then you have some doubt of whether he's going to win or not. And I just rooted for the people, the guy who's fighting against him. Hiranyakashipu is really going to come get me now. Imagine the kind of stricture that he's going to give to us now. High-minded personalities. They're servants of the Supreme Personality of God, but they're attached. As it turns out, Lord Nrsingadev, he's half cat, right? Yes. Say yes. Yes. Yeah. I saw one when we were going door to door, and there was a cat. He was in Colorado. He was on somebody's lawn, and the cat was just sitting there, and the little mouse was hopping around. And then, as soon as the mouse would get a few inches outside a radius, the cat would catch it in and pull it back, and then wait for it. And if anybody knows cats, they like to play with. I know it's a family show. And back again. But in that case, we see Prahlad didn't mind at all. In fact, he hated all of Lord Nrsingadev, or the whole mess. He wasn't afraid of because he was completely detached. He pushed Prahlad forward, and he was very peaceful, and he offered prayers to the Lord, and he said, I'm not afraid of you. There's only one thing I'm afraid of, he said, and that's your Vishnu Maya, that I might get pulled back into it again. Siddhikami Sakaliya Ashanta. Krishna Bhakta Atayas. Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakaliya Shanta. It's in the Chaitanya Charita. It means that only the Vaishnava is peaceful because he's, you know the definition of material desire? It says, the verse says, Krishna Bhakti Nishkam. Because the Krishna Bhakti is Nishkam, Eva Shanta. Therefore, the Vaishnava is peaceful. But material desire, material enjoyment, mukti, they want to give it all up, merge, or siddhi, mystic perfection, siddhikami, sakali, ashanta, means they're not peaceful. Nobody can be happy if they have material desires. It's algebraic. So this was the problem. They got started a little late.
So I have a question. Krishna asked the wives of the Brahmana to go back, but
his desire is more intense, or Ramanya Devaya Goparamana Hitaya Cha Jagatitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. He supports Brahminical culture, cows, Brahmins, etc. That's what's mentioned in the commentary. Yes.
Get donations or Lakshmi.
People. That's not necessary. Find for people to give us something, and they're giving. Because the more detached we are, the more they're eager to give. And I've experimented with this. I heard years ago about a devotee who had decided that he would give everyone completely free choice whether they give or not. And I tried it myself and have trended more and more into that realm because it's fascinating to not, there are psychological tricks or ways of cornering people and making sure step by step that they give a donation. I mean, it's not absolute, but it can be done. But there is a way also, after presenting, that you can just say, I'll give it to you anyway, even if you don't give. But if you'd like to give, it's good for you. And watching how people, Raghunath Das Goswami is begging, you know the different stages of when he was being supported because they had lots of money. He was using it to hold feasts for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his family of devotees. And then he stopped doing that. And then he was at various phases of taking charity, and some of it was begging. And it says there's a verse there that says if people knew how hard it was to beg, they'd always give something to a beggar. And if people who beg knew how hard it was to give, they wouldn't ask. So it's an interesting relationship with asking people to do things. But we have to do it on behalf of Krishna, because that's his wish. And even though he says in the Bhagavad Gita, just keep it cool, talk to people who are devoted, don't talk to anybody who's not devoted or austere and so forth. Prabhupada said, yeah, we still have to do that. Yes.
Krishna 10 friends, so that was nice.
You get extra points for those. There's different circumstances like that, like, you know, so there's reversals where somebody says your faith in humanity is restored, right? Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you can't have any more fun. Comes close, but it's not as complete. There's perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. And the most perfect environment for enjoying life is to be on book distribution, because you're free. You're doing exactly what you know you should be doing, and you've overcome all fears. The suffering we undergo in this world is all in the mind. And the greatest suffering is cognitive dissonance. When I know I should be doing something, but I'm not doing it. I'm just thinking about doing it. But when you actually do it, like you did, then you feel free. Like, what can stop me now? I've overcome my fear, and I'm here doing whatever I have to do. And then the interactions that we have reveals the comical nature of the material world. For instance, I show somebody the Bhagavad Gita, the most treasured book in the lives of the most intelligent people in the world. A transcendental masterpiece spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon the reading of which one becomes, not to ask them necessarily, but just to think about how crazy is the material world that someone couldn't stop for 5 seconds, or they'd be averse to even looking at it, or they a priori decide that you're some kind of a heretic because your book looks different than theirs, or something like that. All that goes to building a composite view of the material world that is consistent with what Krishna just says it is in the Bhagavad Gita. And it reinforces our conviction in surrendering to Krishna, to surrender to Krishna. Let's take a couple more, and I'm not sure what time it is, but I'm going to ask Divyanand Prabhu. I mean, how much time? Many years as a warrior, and they wanted to repay him, say, we'll give you anything you want, you just decide, and said, how much time do I have?
Desire that the Brahmana's wives had, reservation. They said as rivers are going towards the sea or to the ocean, and I was seeing that in relation to book distribution of Sankirtan, who's reading Srila Prabhupada, utilized that opportunity to share Krishna consciousness in some way or other, and seeing that quality in devotees. It may not be on the same level as the wives of the Brahmanas, but that quality of going out spontaneously to serve Krishna.
Oh no, it is.
Oh,
Prabhupada, the leader of the Sankirtan party, or movement actually, was working diligently to expand book distribution circa 1972, had understood from Prabhupada that the mood of book distribution was the mood of the gopis. And when it's in the mood of the gopis, that this is the mood of which they can be reconnected with Krishna, which is mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami when he said, Maya Mugdha Jivana Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan Jivera Kripaya Koila Krishna Veda Puran. And that is that the soul does not automatically come out of Maya. It's not swata. They don't just suddenly wake up. Yes?
Doing, but they were not able to do. And that is a gap, so how we can overcome that limitation, which we may also be carrying in our heart.
What is he saying? What?
How to overcome cognitive dissonance. When you know
How to overcome cognitive dissonance?
Yes.
From not doing the right thing, and we count up how much time we're wasting, and also consider how good it would feel to do the right thing. That's why I mentioned last night when we read the verse Sarva Dharman Parityaja. It's really a good verse to think about, meditate on a lot. or maybe if there's this unwillingness to do it, just like we call, I'll try it for 5 minutes or an hour. What happened to you, Larry? Anga Hayam Purushaha, the Vedic part of a process, and
devotional to express it, but already an experience I had yesterday was a father and he so for the father is already doing puja and everything, but would then in the relationship.
There's a difference between the Atma and the Bhavi and the Bharata. Somebody who knows me, they know everything. Culmination of all knowledge, and they've developed a relationship with Krishna because they're directly hearing from Krishna in their heart. So the cultivation of knowledge, as you described it, was a relationship with this material world, and why. You have to have a clear idea of what are the categories, because if you make a category mistake, which means that you think you're your body, you're in big trouble. Think, this is me, I'm such and such, then you've made a big mistake. So you need knowledge to get out of that, to come to the point of Kshetrajnam Chapimam. The body's a field, I'm the soul within the body. So that we study the book and systematically presented them. Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano Shaddharma Samstapako, in order to establish the perfect process by which we could come to knowledge. Did I confuse you more?
Thank you.
Okay. Then we're to the very last question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's a wonderful lecture and presentation you Prema, because the love for Krishna. But the man has the duty to take care. That's why this, you know what I mean.
Well, ultimately, we're all prakriti. This idea that we're men or women is a designation. It's a temporary designation. That's why Krishna gives us the facility to only see this lifetime. If we were to see our many past lives, we would notice that we have had many bodies. As is mentioned here, Radha of mine one day, it was right near a yoga studio, a woman in leotards or whatever they, Lululemon or whatever, came out having done her yoga thing, and I showed her a Bhagavad Gita, each type of person. And now we're going to have the Damodar Ashtakam after a word from our sponsor. Let's see what we've won.
Hare Krishna. So how was today?
Unbelievable.
Very blissful. We went to Govardhan, had a parikrama, came back, had nice prasadam. Was the prasadam okay? I'm saying nice because I thought it was nice. And then we had a nice katha now. Now we're going to end the evening with Damodar Ashtakam. Those who like to go and offer the lamp at the temple, feel free to do so. But this is our schedule for tomorrow, since Maharaj mentioned what have we won. Actually, a couple of things for today. So many C2 forms are not yet filled out for the reception. So please fill up those forms tonight if you can. And then you can collect your passports once you've given the form. So they do need that information. It's very important. Fill that up and then collect your details. This morning we were at Govardhan, ISKCON Govardhan Ashram, and she sponsored the breakfast prasadam there in the memory of her late mother, Naina Ben Patel. And the pujari at the Radha Kund did a nice puja. So thank you, Neha Mataji, for doing Prabhu. In the MVT. And then from where His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj's Yatra schedule was program. So the whole, because we are taking prasadam, also doing the Hari Katha, we have. Thank you, Raj Prabhu, for reminding that. And finally, I'm offering from the made on the Tulsi stick, and Raj Prabhu spent days and days come in this direction.
Sakshit Rupam. Is my
It's coming.
that won't work.
Tamagal Kastakam is complete. Please come and collect some Jagannath Prasadam from Guru Maharaj. He has some Jagannath Prasadam he'd like to give. Okay, thank you so much.
Move that so it doesn't get broken.
Okay. Sorry, one more change. If everybody could get up just for 2 minutes, we're going to remove them.